You do not want to miss this episode. On this week of Lean by Doing, I am joined by Patrick Adams. He is an award-winning author, he's a lean consultant, and all-around expert when it comes to lean. And he shares some really important tips on how you can make your lean implementation better. So let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to the Lean by Doing podcast. And today I have Patrick Adams from Lean Solutions with me. Thank you, Patrick, for joining me.
Oh, I'm excited to be here.
This is a Shingo award-winning author for his Continuous Appearance Trap book, which is actually a really good book. I found that one was very relevant to when you're trying to do lean and you're trying to start out, and you try to look it. It's like faking it before you make it.
Right.
But so many people don't ever step forward from the faking it to actually make it.
Yeah.
And you put Gemba board walls up and you do all kinds of things, but you're not actually creating the lean content or driving the lean integration. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that.
Oh, you'd be surprised how many companies I go to, and it's like wallpaper. You know, a lot of really pretty stuff, pretty scorecards, tape on the floors, tape on desks, labels. But it's what's underneath is what really matters. And you know, there's just too many organizations that think that it's what you see on the surface is what matters, and it's really not. It's what's behind it.
So one of the things that we were talking about earlier were like, as a consultant, like what does your life look like as a consultant? Because, you know, I'm just a business owner. Most of the people I'm familiar with are business owners.
Sure.
I've never really like talked to somebody that's like has to do this every single day for a living. So I'm curious, what is the best customer? What's your ideal customer? Can you paint a picture of what that would look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. The best customer. Well, I think, you know, I would say the best customer is one that is excited, engaged, you know, really invested in change. They see a future for their organization. They have a vision for where they want to be, and they're ready to take action in making it happen, right? There's too many organizations out there or too many leaders, I guess, that say one thing, but they don't really mean it, and they're not willing to invest the time. They're not willing to put forth the effort that's needed in order to make real change happen. Lean is a long-term strategy. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And there's just too many organizations out there that are looking for the silver bullet, you know, something that's going to create change overnight. I mean, we definitely look for low-hanging fruit with organizations, but at the end of the day, we're always looking for companies that want real change, real lasting change, which isn't going to happen overnight. It's a long-term play.
Out of all the companies that call you and you have to go visit, I mean, what are the percentage of them that are like your dream candidate?
Yeah, that's a good question. The percentage, man. You know, to be honest, we are very particular about who we work with, and and that was learned early on in my time. You know, I worked in the corporate world. I worked as an internal coach for different organizations, and I learned quite a bit about what it looks like for an organization to really be ready to invest in lean transformation.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I would say that the percentage is pretty high as far as organizations that we actually work with.
Yeah.
But if you were to look at all the organizations that I go to and all the organizations that we do assessments with, and then between the two of us, we kind of determine probably not the best fit, either us for you or you for us, you know. So it does take quite a bit of work to find the right candidates that are willing to put the effort in to change.
Yeah.
And those that aren't, it's not that we don't want to work with them. It's just if they don't have the right characteristics in place, they're not going to be able to have real lasting change with real measurable impact. And that's what they're looking for. And if they're just not willing to put the effort in, they're not willing to put the work in, then they're wasting their money by bringing someone like us in, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure that you have to know that, and you have to be able to just say to them, listen, you're going to spend money that doesn't make any sense, so it's probably best that we don't even go down that rabbit hole at this point.
Well, and I've worked with organizations where in the beginning they might say that, you know, they say all the right things and they look like they're ready and willing, and then we get started with them and we find out very quickly that where'd that executive leader that was so invested and so involved, where did they go?
Yeah.
And if it's not important to leaders at the organization, it's not going to be important to the frontline leaders, to the workers. So I've had to go back and say, hey, we got to talk and just have a conversation where it's like, what you guys told us in the beginning is not what we're experiencing now. And we need to make a decision here because we don't want you to continue spending money on something that's not going to have measurable results for you, the results that you're looking for. We really stand behind, when we work with a client, we set very specific deliverables with them, and we stand behind meeting those deliverables. In fact, we have a guarantee that if we don't meet those deliverables, we'll keep someone on site at no cost until we do. So it's important, again, that we have that partnership and that agreement up front that we need you to invest with very specific actions, and we're going to commit to you in the same way. And the result of that will be real, measurable, lasting results. But when it's not happening, sometimes we have to go back to them and say, hey, maybe this wasn't the best decision. We need to make a decision. Either you guys are going to do what you said, or we're going to have to stop working together.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So this is the first time that you visited my facility. You live about an hour from here. So it's awesome that you came. So thank you so much for coming down. I feel like we walked around. I showed you kind of the fast version of my lean tour. And you got to see a morning meeting and kind of got to see what we're doing. It seemed like you maybe were a little shocked that we were only at it for 7 months. But
I was very shocked,
And, we've definitely been on a rocket ship attached to us. Now we're starting to see some of the, it's almost like we're filling in the jacket, and the jacket's starting to get a little full, and the buttons are starting to pop. We're starting to see some of that. So it's not like it didn't come without consequence, or it's not coming without some strain. So, people look at it and they're like, man, I would love to be where Brian's at. But we had a certain level of pain that we were willing to deal with. And that was, like what you're saying is like, I have to go to my employees and say, you're not meeting the measurables. You're not engaged. I need you to be engaged, just like you're doing with clients.
Right.
But I have to do it with, employees.
Yeah.
And it's a very similar conversation,
Sure.
like this, if we're not going to make this work, then maybe we shouldn't do this.
Yeah, and a lot of times employees will self-select themselves out of an organization that's on their lean journey because it's just not a place for them. There's people that want to come in and just punch a clock and run a machine for a day and then leave. And in a lean environment, that's just not what we're asking our employees to do. We want them to be engaged, to be involved, to get excited about change and transformation, and tell us what's bothering you so that we can fix it, or so that you can be involved in fixing it. And again, there's just some people that, for whatever reason, are not interested in that, and that's okay. Just might not be the place for you. And you mentioned obviously being here, you're going through some of those growing pains and doing that here. And as a consultant too, it's my job to work myself out of a job, right?
Yeah.
Because I need leaders like you that are committed to lead an organization and do the things that we're doing temporarily, right? It's our job to come in, create the excitement, develop the standards, sometimes create the foundation along with leaders like you, so that you can then take that over, because that's what leadership should look like in a lean organization.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really, that's tough. It's tough to go in, you get invested, you get to know the people,
Right.
and then you kind of have to pull out. You have to let them swim on their own. It's not a lot different than what we're doing. But when you talk about like they have to own it, or you have an employee that just comes in and punches a brake press and they don't want to do anything different. The problem is, like, I shared a video yesterday with Chuck Ceccarelli from In the Ditch. It's like a 10-year-old video. It's sweeping, and he does a test, and they time it. And, they try 3 different ways of doing it, and they make all these improvements. Well, the problem is, if nobody is willing to adapt to that standard, and they're going to come in and they're going to sweep wastefully, that person walked 49 miles a year. The person, after the all improvements, was walking 12 miles a year to sweep that same area. So you're basically you're paying somebody to be wasteful. And if they're not willing to like buy into the change and at least like entertain the upgrades, then you're into that, as you say, the continuous appearance trap. Yeah, you're just looking like it, but it's under the surface. You have 3 or 4 of your 5 employees that aren't pulling the rope at all. Yeah, it looks great. That cart looks great, but they're pushing it way too far all the time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times what happens is people leaders start on their journey, but they might skip past the education of their employees around the why.
Oh yeah.
And if leaders come out and they just say, this is the way we're going to do it, and then leave, a lot of times that doesn't work, right? You have to educate your employees on not only the tools and the techniques and the principles, but you also have to make sure that they understand the why behind it. And that's not something that just happens one time. It happens through continuous conversation, like at your stand-up. I mean, your stand-up meeting this morning was amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
And the fact that you guys are talking about your mission, you're talking about your vision, your values, you're showing examples, and you're educating them in a very short amount of time. Every day, you're educating your team on why we do certain things, or hey, this didn't work out the way we expected, and here's what we learned. I mean, every day you're educating them, and so that's important because team members need to understand why we need to drive the waste out of sweeping the floor. You know, why is that important? Well, it's important because that extra 12 hours a day or 12 hours a week or whatever it is necessary because we have orders that we need to hit, and we need that 12 hours back because orders are up and we got some backlog, and so if they understand that and they go, oh, okay, that makes sense, or we want you to spend half the time sweeping because we want you to go and be able to spend time improving your workstation and taking away some of the headaches and roadblocks. Oh, okay, that makes sense. But you have to continuously educate your team members until it's almost like they have to get to this tipping point where they just all of a sudden they just start getting it, and they're like, man, why am I walking back and forth all the time? And then you start to see it's like when you're teaching your kids to do certain things, and then all of a sudden you hear a parent say, man, your son was over at my house eating dinner and he was so respectful, and it's like you're proud, So it's almost like that as a leader of an organization, where all of a sudden you see someone like bringing up and going, hey, I had to walk back and forth 15 times, so I ended up moving that table over there. Is that okay?
Yeah,
that's okay. You're amazing. Let's do some more.
For me to learn the why, it actually took a little while. At first, I was just like full in, like bulldozer mode. Let's just go. And I felt that a lot of these changes just were like made sense. And I feel like a lot of the easy starting ones do. But once you get past that and you start to get into the real meat of the process, that's when the why has to come in, because they've done it that way forever. They've never looked at it with different goggles or different eyes. And so therefore they need to know why we want to change it. Hey, this has just worked. We've been doing this for 5 years that I've worked here. Why do you want to change it? Well, we want to change it because we want to make your life easier. We want to make the process easier. We want to make the product better. There's so many things. Another thing I was showing you in our packaging area where we have our customer supermarket, if they don't follow the SOP, you can tell because the box is different.
That's right.
And then from there, we can immediately open that box up and see, is this a defect or is it the wrong part? And it's like, that's why but that was like a good example of the why, right? We had to go over to packaging and say, this is why it has to be the same, because to Ben in shipping, this looks like it potentially could be a mistake. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Powerful visual.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So switching gears real quick. So you came and did my tour. I'm just curious kind of what your takeaways were, and like, what are some things that we could do better?
Yeah, good question. Well, like I said, your stand-up meeting this morning was amazing. I think, I go into a lot of organizations, and I would have thought after sitting in on that you had been at this on your lean journey for quite a while. But it was interesting to hear as you talk to me about what it looked like in the beginning and how you've progressed, even in the last 6 months, from where it started to where it is today. That's continuous improvement, right? And the fact that you're out there and you happen to be leading today, but it actually is one of your team members, and that changes every day, that leads that meeting, which is amazing because you're developing them as leaders in your organization. But again, just to see you as you're the leader of this organization, and if people don't follow what you say, they follow what you do, right? Yeah. And you're out there every day walking the floor, you're attending the stand-up meetings, you're engaging, you're excited. I mean, you were talking about some of the stories to your team, and even what you're proud about. And you gave a story about one of your employees, a very specific story And like that alone is just like people know that you care. And that was pretty amazing to hear. So I think, you know, I know I'm spending a lot of time on just your stand-up meeting, but I think it's an important piece of the culture that you had here. And one of the questions I asked you while we were touring is what does your turnover look like?
Yeah.
And I immediately said it's probably pretty low, right?
Yeah.
And you said, yeah, it is actually. It's really low. And I can tell that just by attending, you know, a 20-minute stand-up meeting. I'm like, man, these people are engaged. They're excited. You asked a question. What was it? The turn back? Turn back?
Yeah, turn back boards. Yeah.
You know, you asked a question about that, and if for a lot of organizations that I go visit, you would ask a question to everybody, and it would be like crickets. And it'd be like, who's going to say something? Anybody got something?
Yeah.
But here it was immediately you had one person speak up, and they threw out something, and then another person spoke up, and another person. And it was like amazing to see how engaged your team was, and they weren't staged. They were genuinely having conversations and talking about it, and you could tell that it wasn't abnormal. It was normal for your team to have those types of conversations, and that's pretty amazing. So those were some big takeaways from your stand-up meeting. I love the visuals in your shop, walking around as an outsider, being able to see the workflow, to see abnormalities, to see where Kanban cards were pulled and things were on order. Even there was a piece of equipment that we looked at that had a barcode scanner on it that you scan it and it basically tells you, it gives you an instruction on how to start the machine up. I could have, being the first time here, I could have started that piece of equipment up and ran it. I mean, how amazing is that, right? Think about the training time for new employees coming in, right? I mean, that's great. So there's just so many things that I saw that are worth talking about on the tour, and I could probably go on with others, but I guess that those are my initial takeaways.
So you're basically just telling people they need to come see my morning meeting.
Absolutely.
We had a guest company yesterday, and they were amazed by that as well. Yeah. The stretching's a little weird. Initially, when we started it, we didn't do stretching. Morgan, she did it on her meeting, and I was like, that's fine. You can do it. It's your meeting. And so we kind of let people build like versions of it. And since then, we've kind of really fine-tuned what we're doing. The morning meeting is absolutely critical for that. And we've really started to work back in more conversations so that we can use it for training.
Sure.
Because we were kind of missing that for probably about 4 or 5 weeks. And now having it back in there, it gives us an opportunity for those that aren't paying attention all the time. They're not consuming all the content we're sharing. Right. It gives them a chance to hear what we're talking about and understand what we're talking about. So yeah, I know when you said the turnover, you know, we had hired Jen, and that was like 16 months ago. And she's been here since, you know, and everyone else is 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. It's been pretty crazy. Everyone was like all in when we switched to lean. They thought, this is great, let's go. So that helped a ton.
Absolutely.
Having that culture already, I had already built the transparency with my team. They already kind of trusted me. They knew I wasn't going to, you know, leave them hanging with some project. It was going to be something that I was all in on. And that passion, oh my gosh. People talk about it all the time. You can't replicate it.
No.
You have to have it. You have to genuinely want this
to
make it really successful. To me, it's like a hobby. You know what I mean? It's like, this is what I do for fun now.
Yeah. Well, and I could tell, you know, as you were giving me a tour, I could feel the passion that you have for continuous improvement. Even the little things that you were showing me, you were crazy excited about, and that's what you need in a leader. I mean, think about you're leading by doing, and you're showing what it looks like to be excited about continuous improvement. And attending your stand-up meeting, I could see that in your employees. Right. I can see the same passion that you have in them, and that's when you know that they've kind of caught the bug, right? They've drank the Kool-Aid or whatever you want to say. But I mean, the results stand for themselves. I mean, I think you mentioned the shop here, what the square footage that you used to take up with the equipment and the shelving and everything. And since you've adopted lean principles into your organization and you've started to look at continuous improvement on a regular basis, you've shrunk the footprint.
Yeah, a ton.
Right.
Yeah, everything shrinks around you every day. And, you know, that's like the byproduct of lean. And people get all crazy. The company that visited yesterday, they're doing a 20,000 square foot addition. And I was like, you guys might want to reconsider before it's done how you manage your space, because you might want to completely rearrange everything as opposed to just pushing, parts of your process back into the building.
Right.
You might want to think, what does flow look like? What does the ideal state look like? What does it look like if I sequence this through? And I wouldn't have had that if a friend didn't challenge me to say, sequence it, sequence your new layout and just do it. And I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, we have about 12,000 square feet in the front of the building that's just dead space right now. And
in your new building,
right? In the new building,
Because you're moving into a new building.
Yeah.
And you showed me your board. You have a paper dowel set up, and you said that you've moved things around multiple times, and you're finally starting to get to a point where you feel like but you have 12,000 square feet that's space. Like completely open. And I mean, my recommendation to you was like rope it off. Don't allow yourself to get into that, because if you have the space, you'll just use it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. I think my daughter wants me to build a volleyball court.
There you go. There you go.
I don't think that's probably what I'll do with it, but for now, I figure we'll just leave it as empty space, and maybe we stage some vehicles in there as additional showroom space, or we'll get creative. Maybe we'll make it a flex space for our staff. Maybe we'll make something cool out of it. There's just like sky's the limit. Like our creativity is unlocked at this point. And it's so much fun. I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ideally, you'll move into that as you grow, right? Yeah. I mean, so that's the ideal scenario.
Obviously,
I think the things that you're doing for your customers will create that growth. I mean, you showed me. We talked to Joel on, is that customer service?
Yep.
Yeah, customer service. And I love that you guys are when you receive an order in, you're immediately recording a video, a customized video, personalized for your customer to say, hey, Jennifer, we just received your order for this. Really appreciate you. Thank you for that. And shooting that out. It only takes a second, but man, what a difference that makes for your customer. That's amazing.
Initially, we were kind of wondering if it would work because, when in Lean, we make these videos all the time, right? Where our guys, the guys that toured yesterday, they were laughing because one of my guys was shooting his improvement video. Like, look, he's shooting an improvement video. We get used to it, but it's not normal. Right. So when we sent these out as like an experiment, we're like, are customers going to open them? Are they going to like them? Are they going to hate them? Like, what is the response? And every response has been like, holy cow, this is awesome. No one's ever sent me a video. And that's kind of like that next step of like being the creative company that plows forward.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest thing is like that touch with the customer. Like they bought something from a website. There's no personal touch. The order came in overnight, and here is somebody with a face. Yeah. And that is the most important part, is connecting that customer to us.
Yeah.
And
well, it's why you exist. And when you think about, the principle of ensuring that you're adding as much value as you can to your end customer, I mean, you have to be thinking about how can we add more value to the customer. And a lot of people don't think about something like that. Like, how do we set ourselves apart and really make sure that the customer feels valued and that they feel like we really genuinely care about them.
Yeah.
The videos that you're doing, I even think about you started to build a finished good Kanban.
Yeah.
And in the past, you were putting parts on the shelf and they would get dusty and dirty, and now you're actually packaging them because you don't want your customers to receive dirty, scratched parts, right? I mean, little things like that make such a difference for your end customer, and that has to be the beginning. I mean, that's why you're in business.
Yeah.
You're in business in order to add value to your customer, and you're going to grow because you're doing things like that.
We had a very interesting growth trajectory with Victory 4x4, which is our off-road Toyota brand. And we started it in 2016, and we just focused on Jeep parts. And then in 2017, we built this Toyota brand. We separated the brands because Jeep people and Toyota people are like water and gasoline, trying to mix them. So we separated them, and we did it out of that. And I'm glad we did, because we have two different audiences that you're marketing to. Imagine marketing a Jeep bumper and half your audience is a Toyota company or a Toyota member. That doesn't work. And by doing that, we had created this space for us where we competed basically on our infrastructure that we built. So all these other companies had these long lead times, like 6 months for a bumper and stuff. And then we hopped into this thing and we were like 10 to 15 days. And we created so much pull then, even though we didn't know what it was. And we were driving forward in this market. And people were like, dude, just buy it from Victory. You'll have it in 10 to 15 days. And it was a space that was like neglected for a long time by like a big player. And then COVID hit, changed everything for everyone. And now it's kind of shifting. We're really struggling to identify what our customers look like and what they want. And that's like important, is like to get back to our roots. We're prior, the customer were making the referrals for us, and we were growing off that word of mouth forever.
Sure.
Now I feel like we kind of hit a spot where other companies have done a better job with that, and our pie slice is shrinking, and so now we're trying to kind of claw it back. And what happened is, and it's not like trying to brag or anything, but like the things that we did to innovate, people just copied it, and then next thing you know, everybody's doing installation videos, and everyone's doing this, and everyone's doing that. Now we're just doing it again, but this time I have a weapon behind me with a mechanized lean operation that people just can't compete with. When I get down to where our custom products are going to be like, yeah, we'll have it for you in 5 days. Our hardest parts.
Yeah.
And all the rest of the stuff's in stock. We can ship it today. I mean, you're just stealing customers because at that point you double down on speed. But I feel like, what does the customer want? You have to identify that. And that's hard.
Right.
Especially depending on how you're structured. My friend Will in Tennessee Cheesecake, his customer's 4 steps away. And he's like, how do I connect? How do I connect with what they want? And I was like, I don't know.
Right.
And that you have to figure that out. But fortunately for us, we sell direct.
Yeah.
So as Paul Akers always says, you want to know what someone thinks, ask them.
Ask them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we've been doing a lot of asking lately.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, that you can't beat that. I mean, the fact that you have direct access to your end customer is powerful, and you have to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And I think in the right. I mean, sometimes customers don't want to talk, but I would say the majority, especially if you treat them right. I mean, starting out with a video like you are, I mean, that type of stuff, they're going to be willing to talk to you.
Yeah.
And even they know other people that are looking for the same type of thing, right? So, even from a referral standpoint, you treat them right, you ask them what's important to them, you respond appropriately. They're going to talk to other people, and they're going to come to you too because they had a good experience.
I feel that so many businesses, especially American-made businesses, fall into this trap where they say, I can't compete with Amazon. I can't get it there next day. They want that. Or the customer's dumb, or they don't get it, or whatever it is. They have no attention span. And I was telling you earlier, I heard this thing that said that maybe you shouldn't worry about your customer's attention span. Maybe your content sucks. Maybe your delivery sucks. And I was like, shit, that hurts. You know what I mean? Because it really is. I mean, part of it is you get comfortable. Life changes. I feel like the boomer who's like, the computer's coming around and things are changing around me, and I can either adapt or I can die.
Yeah.
And that's a weird spot to be in.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that in companies that you go into because they're probably in crisis mode with a need for a change. And,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it makes me think about, Blockbuster Video, who's no longer in business. Well, why are they no longer in business? I've talked about this before, but, they doubled down on how do we make when customers are coming into our building, let's double down on the customer experience at the counter, and let's make sure that they have the best customer experience at the counter. Well, they were doubling down on the wrong thing. They weren't innovating. Yeah. They weren't looking at where things are going in the world, right? So, not only do we have to make improvements, but we have to make improvements in the right area. So we have to be on the forefront of innovation and where the world is going. And right now, technology is changing so fast. Yeah. And I'll tell you, if you're not doubling down on AI and how you can apply AI to your business today, you might be the next Blockbuster. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's hard truth. You know what I mean? And customers don't care. They only pay for what they're willing to pay for, and they're not willing to pay for all your waste. They're not willing to pay for all the crap, the bureaucracy that you built into your process. And that's where, like, I've tried to strip that out as much as possible to make sure that customer, that customer's interface with us is so good and positive.
That's right.
Like for the longest time, I was telling you, we would have these small parts. They would get one bend, powder coated, boxed and shipped. And we would have customers that would be like, hey, I ordered this 2.5 weeks ago. How long does it take you to put one bend in a piece of metal and powder coat it? And the reason that they were waiting is because we had a backlog of other parts.
Sure.
And they just got stuck in the backlog. Now we're saying, okay, we're going to take the burden of that lead time by building inventory, the right inventory, and allowing the customer to just pull and replenish. Oh my gosh, what a change that has made for us. That has been
well, and it costs you money. So there's probably organizations out there like, oh, we can't do that. We can't take on the burden ourselves. That's too much money. But how much money are you losing by losing the customers that aren't coming to you because they're not happy about the lead time that you have? Yeah. Right. So you got to think about that kind of stuff and go, okay, what's our finished goods strategy? How can we, and again, it all goes back to adding value to the customer. Who's most important? The customer is. If you make your customer happy, it will come back to you. And the ROI on holding parts, having a finished goods strategy depends on who you are and what you do. Obviously, you have to look at it. Don't just build inventory to build inventory.
Right.
Like really look at, just like don't put Kanban in just because Toyota had Kanban, exactly. Right? I mean, what problem are you trying to solve? What value are you trying to provide to your customer? Do the right things and experiment, learn as you go. But don't just be stagnant and not do anything. We're not going to do that because it's too expensive. We're not going to do that because it takes too much time. Okay. Might not be around very long if that's your attitude.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the customer service videos. When we were doing them, we had no idea whether customers were going to like them. We had to try it. We had to do the experiment in a way, right? Hey, throw 10 of these out there and see what people's responses are. It's funny. 10 messages, 10 responses, 10 positives. So no one even ignored it. This is just you know what I mean? It's like, and it's just something you try. It's an idea. It sounds crazy. Let's try it.
Yeah.
And same thing's happening with our marketing now. We're trying to figure out how to market to our customer better, try to get in front of the right customer. And all this stuff is that people like my age, I'm 44, that are been doing business their whole life. We have to rethink this.
That's right.
Because it's all changed and it's all shifted. The customer demands are different. Amazon has put a giant barrier in the way of American manufacturers to produce goods and ship. I mean, even if I had it on the shelf today, I'm still 3 to 4 days to get it to them. It's not like I have my own vans full of, product ready to just drop off, or warehouses throughout the United States. Right. Yeah, so you have to really you really have to analyze yourself and say, what can I do better for my customer? What does my customer's experience look like? I also showed you some improvements we made in our roof rack value stream with some of the packaging. And yesterday, my partner Daryl, he did a video showcasing that. And it was crazy, the difference between the two. Previously, what it looked like versus what it looks like now. And so much more professional, but it's lower cost. It's a higher value for the customer because their parts aren't getting scratched. We're able to grocery store it, so we're able to take the lead time out. Yeah, it's all continuous improvement that I had no idea. 8 months ago, I didn't know that I was going to be able to do that.
Right.
We just did stuff the way we knew how to do it, the best that we knew. And, changing your mind set completely around lean changes the game.
Well, and think about if you were trying to do all of this by yourself, or you and your partner trying to do this, it would take you forever to figure all that out. You're empowering your team. You're teaching them how to be problem solvers. You're teaching them how to Kaizen and how to look for opportunities. And you're asking them what bothers you. What are some things what are ideas that you have? And so you've created this army of problem solvers that are looking at things and going, maybe we should do this a little different, or hey, we should try this. And then you as a leader are going, yes, let's try it. Let's experiment. Let's do that. So think about in 7 months, how fast you've been able to move, how quickly. There's a lot of organizations out there that can't do that because, or I guess they can do it, but they're not doing it because they're not empowering their team. They didn't think about, okay, let's hire a CI manager, one person that's going to manage the continuous improvement for the whole organization. Now you have one problem solver that's trying to do everything him or herself, and it's going to take forever, right? If you can figure out how to develop your team and create that sense of urgency and empower them to make improvements every day, think about how much faster you can move. I mean, you've experienced it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think on top of that, though, you do have to help seed some of it.
Absolutely.
If you're sitting there and waiting for every single person to come up with ideas, it's like level 1, level 2, level 3 improvements, right? So sometimes you have to start the process of the change, and then they start to see what it looks like. It's like learning by doing, right? You have to get on the shop floor. Here's an example. Oh, I can do that. That makes sense. Then they start to well, what if I move this to here? I'm right-handed, so I should have it over here. That's when stuff starts to move. But if you just sit back and just wait for these people to make that lean thinking shift, man, you'll be waiting a long time.
Yeah.
7 months or more, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, that's true. And honestly, if there's people that are listening that maybe haven't started their lean journey, and maybe they're leading an organization where they're hearing this, or they're seeing some of your videos and going, man, I want to do that with my organization. Sometimes you have to be intentional about creating some structure around what that looks like, because you'll get busy and things will things will happen and you'll end up, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and it's like, oh, I haven't made an improvement. This stuff doesn't work. I can't do this. So my suggestion would be to, create some level of structure we call leader standard work, but around what you do. So for you personally, you're attending your stand-up meetings every day.
Yeah.
Your leaders are attending stand-up meetings every day. You have department meetings that follow that. And so that's very intentional, very structured. It's something that you've built into your calendar. It's something that you've prioritized as being important because you're developing a learning culture, a continuous improvement culture. That's the output, the result of the inputs that you're putting in as a leader. And that's just one. I'm sure that you're doing regular Gemba walks where you're going out to the floor. You're walking in a structured way to look for waste. You probably have some type of goal for your team members and you on improvement initiatives. Like we want to do X amount per day or X amount per week or whatever it is. I mean, I saw your turnback boards and they're full of ideas, right? So you have some structure around that. So for those people that are listening that are like, well, how do I start? What do I do? Well, if you want to create a continuous improvement culture, that's the output. What are the inputs? What are the things that you need to prioritize in your day and in your week that are going to give you that output? Gemba walks, one-on-one coaching, stand-up meetings, improvement activities, whatever that is. Block time for it. Make it a priority, right? If your team members see that you're making it a priority, if they'll follow you because you're doing it, right? Yeah. And they'll start doing it. So it's just the beginning of continuous improvement.
Yeah, as you touch on that leader standard work, I think that's something that I was talking to you about earlier. It's something that I think you do a really good job speaking on. And one of the things with leader standard work is like, if you don't have your priorities, then you come to work and you just get busy, and then those priorities get washed away. You didn't do them that day. Yeah. So it's all about like making sure you set your structure. I asked my leadership team, if you could do 3 things to transform this business and nothing else, what are those 3 things? And, I had them identify them. And then Kevin, my GM, he has it on his wall. So like every day I need to work on these 3 things. In a way, it's like leader standard work.
Yeah. Do you mind? What were a couple of them that
so for Kevin, he is my GM, but we had switched to now we don't have a purchasing person anymore. So we're doing all of our purchasing through our value streams. So he had number one was to redefine the purchasing interface.
Okay.
So that would be like talking to our vendors and letting them know that we're going to be popping off emails every single day, just batch them together and send it, on our delivery dates. And another one was to essentially rip customer service down to the studs and redefine what that customer experience looks like, because I feel like we've lost that.
Sure.
And that was another one on there. And then coaching. Obviously, coaching is another one. How much time do we spend coaching versus just training or telling somebody what to do?
Yeah.
Taking the opportunity to try to get them to be lean thinkers and challenge them. So those were the 3 that he had. Some others, like for me, when I think about it, coaching is number 1. For me, number 2 is like outreach and networking, meaning, having an opportunity to sit down with you.
Sure.
Pick your mind. Next month I'm going to Ireland. I get to meet Ryan Tierney and see CD Matters, and that stuff's important too. And then making sure that I'm bringing that information back to my team. But coaching for me is a big one. Like I have to focus on coaching, and I have to do it right.
Right.
I can't go on the field and play the game for them. I need to teach them how to play the game, or observe and say, hey, if you did this, and then show them kind of like the playbook, right?
Yeah.
Try this, and then kind of coach that success. That's hard. That's not natural.
Yeah.
And that's a learned strategy, if you will, but it's a long-term strategy.
Yeah, and just saying that that's important to you is one thing, but if you create the structure around it and go, if this is important, it needs to become a non-negotiable in my day, and I'm going to coach one person every day, and I'm going to do it every day at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out, I'm going to pick one person, and I'm going to spend 30 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it is, and you block your calendar, and you don't schedule anything else around that. It is a priority. It's a non-negotiable. And, here's the thing. Sometimes what happens is at 1 o'clock, you get a customer that pops in. Okay, customers got to take, priority, but these are non-negotiables. So you don't just go, oh, I'm not going to do my coaching today because a customer showed up at 1 o'clock. You know what? You're going to do it at 3 o'clock that day, right? Or you're going to do 2 of them tomorrow because you've decided that that's something that is a priority for you and your organization. It's going to help create the output that you're looking for, the continuous improvement culture. So you cannot negotiate on it. You have to do it if you want that to happen. Honestly, if you get to the end of your day, for all of us that anywhere that you're working at, you could go into work, have zero plan for your day, and at the end of the day, it would have been a busy day. Probably tons of things happened. Quality issues, customer called, customer popped in, whatever. Someone called in sick. The list is a mile long of things that will happen throughout your day that will fill your day. And at the end of your day, if you ask yourself, look back on your day, this happens to a lot of people. They look back on the day, like, what did I do today? I felt really busy, but like, what did I actually accomplish today?
Firefighting.
Yeah.
I spent most of your day firefighting.
Exactly, yeah. If you're not intentional to create some structure, the leader standard work, and say, I'm going to do one coaching session every day. I'm going to attend one daily stand-up every day. It's a non-negotiable. At the end of your day, you'll still have all that busy work, all the firefighting. Well, potentially you're reducing that. At the end of your day, you'll be able to go, okay, I checked the box on coaching, and I checked the box on my daily stand-up or my tier meeting. Boom, boom. I got 2 things done today. That's amazing. And that's driving you. It's one step closer to developing that true culture of continuous improvement.
I think that I'm going to take that as a challenge. And in my mind, I'm already seeing this Gemba doc that I created and printed that's right above my desk or right next to my workstation that I see every day that has, the 4 things that I need to focus on. And like right now I have like 3 things identified. I'm sure I can find a 4th one to add on top of that. And then maybe from there I can try to, build what it looks like, start to do it, and then I'll start to pull in my leadership team to do the same. I mean, that's an exceptional thought.
Well, think about what's the 1 or 2 things you're going to do daily, and maybe what's the 1 or 2 things you're going to do weekly.
Yes.
And then don't just put it on a list, but really like time block time for it every day at the same time or every week at the same time. Or create a checklist, and at the end of your day, you're going to check off, or if you haven't done it, you're going to go do it. But create some kind of a tool around that forces you, that makes it more intentional. Because I go to organizations where they say, yeah, these things are important to me, and I'm going to try to do that. But again, they get busy or whatever. So you almost have to create your own poke-yoke around, how do I make sure that this does happen? What are the things that I'm going to do because this is important?
I'm going to build a Kamishibai board.
There you go.
I'm going to build just a mini Kamishibai board to attach to my desk that has my red-green tickets. And I'll make a standard op for what it looks like. And man, this is great.
Go one step further and put it on the outside of your door so everyone can see it. Now you got accountability, right?
Okay. Yeah, 100%. I'm doing this. I will send you a video of this when I get it done.
I'm looking forward to it.
But anyways, I've held you long enough. I'm sure you're hungry for lunch, and so thank you so much for coming down.
No, I appreciate it. Love the place here. I think more people should come visit. You got some great stuff going on. And honestly, I mean, if we're 7 months in right now, I'll come back in 6 months, and it'll probably be a totally different place.
Well, it'll be a new building.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It'll be a totally new building.
I'm coming back.
When it comes to the new building, it's going to be exceptional. So hopefully I can create a place where you can bring customers of yours and be like, you got to come see these guys. And hopefully I can, spread this testimony of lean and how it's changed my life and my people's life. I think that's really important, though, because, I have 40 employees and somebody else has 50 employees. And if I can reach through to that business owner and say, do this, they can change 50 lives. I've already changed 40. It's like, that's like the idea, like just continue on changing lives, because everyone has to go to work. Why not make their day enjoyable? Why not make them have a purpose? Why not make them feel like they matter?
That's right.
Because that's everything we want in life, right? Everything else is money. Money's great, right? It's just a tool. It's a tool. And the time you have with your family and your friends and your coworkers, it can change how you look at everything.
Yeah. So. We spend more time with our coworkers, many times than we do with our family. I mean, so you want to create an environment where people enjoy being and they're excited. And I can't imagine going through, day after day, week after week, just dreading my life and dreading my work. And no, let's change that, flip the script, and let's create an environment where people love to work. They're excited to come. They're engaged in something. They're involved in something, a purpose that's bigger than themselves. And that's what you've created here. And I think hats off to you, and hats off to others that are creating, really great continuous improvement environments.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Great to be here.
Yeah. See ya. Thank you so much for tuning in. And before you take off, head down to the link in the description, follow it over to the Lean by Doing website where you can download a Lean toolkit for free. This is brand new, something we just offered. So hop on it, and I will see you guys on the next show.